Hello everyone, welcome back. Tonight, don't turn off the lights. Halloween isn't just a holiday, and it's an invitation. An invitation for what should stay buried, to rise again. Some say monsters aren't real, until they hear them breathing behind their door. Sit still, and listen. Because what you're about to hear really happened. It was supposed to be a joke. That's what Jake kept saying when he parked his rusty old truck at the end of Old Pine Road, the headlights cutting through the fog that rolled over the empty fields. The five of us sat inside the cab. Jake, his girlfriend Lila, me, Evan, Marcus, and Tori. All of us still in our Halloween costumes. We'd just finished hitting every house in town for candy, even though most of us were too old for it. But we didn't care. It was Halloween night, and we weren't ready to go home yet. The house stood at the far end of the road, half hidden behind trees stripped bare by the cold October wind. Everyone in town knew about it. The Barton house, supposedly. It used to belong to a family who vanished in the 80s. The doors were found locked from the inside. Dinner still on the table and a phone off the hook. No one ever figured out what happened. The place had been abandoned ever since, though some said they still saw lights inside around Halloween. Jake grinned. 1 hour inside. Whoever leaves first owes the rest of us dinner for a week. Stupid, Lila said, shoving his shoulder. You're not seriously going in there. Come on, Marcus said, half drunk, half laughing. It's Halloween, Lila. It's tradition to do dumb shit tonight. I didn't say anything. I just stared at the house. Even from the truck, I could feel something wrong about it. Like the air around it was thicker, heavier. The front door hung slightly open, moving just a little with the wind. And through the dark windows, I swore I saw movement. The moment we stepped inside, the smell hit us first. Rot and dust and something faintly metallic. The floor creaked under our shoes. Marcus turned on his flashlight, sweeping the beam across cracked wallpaper and a staircase covered in cobwebs. Home sweet home, he said, trying to sound brave. Lila grabbed my arm tightly. Let's just look around for 5 minutes, then leave, okay? Sure, Jake said. 5 minutes. We split up, of course. That's what always happens. Jake and Lila went upstairs. Marcus and Tori started toward the kitchen. I stayed in the main hallway near the front door. I don't know why. Something in me didn't want to go deeper. I could hear the others laughing, their voices echoing up the stairwell, fading in and out. Then something else. A whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind. But then I realized it was too close. It came from the next room, the living room. I turned my flashlight toward it, and the beam flickered for a moment before stabilizing. There was a chair in the center of the room. An old wooden rocking chair, and it was moving back and forth, even though no one was near it. I called out, Marcus, you in there? No answer. I stepped closer, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The chair kept rocking. Then it slowed. Then it stopped completely. I could hear my own heartbeat, and then I heard something above me. Footsteps, but heavier than Jake's. I shouted up the stairs. Jake, you up there? Silence. I walked toward the staircase. Each step I took made the wood groan. The house felt alive, like it was listening. Halfway up, I heard Lila scream. I ran. At the top of the stairs, I saw her standing at the end of the hallway, pale, shaking, pointing toward a door. Jake wasn't there. He went in, she stammered, and the door slammed shut. It won't open. I grabbed the handle. Cold metal. I pulled. Nothing. I pushed with my shoulder. Still nothing. Jake was shouting from inside, muffled, "Get me out!" "It's locked!" And then, the screaming stopped. Everything went dead silent. Lila started crying. I backed away from the door, not knowing what to do. Then I heard Marcus calling from downstairs. "Guys, you need to see this." We ran down. Marcus was standing in the kitchen, flashlight shaking. The table, the old dining table, one was set with plates. 5 of them, each with fresh food, steam rising, and in one of the plates, a hand human, still warm. Tori was whispering something over and over. "This isn't funny, this isn't funny." Then, from behind us, the same door we entered from and slammed shut. Hard. The sound echoed through the whole house. We tried every window, every door. All sealed. Like the house had swallowed us. Lila kept screaming for Jake, and I swear at one point I heard his voice again. faintly, like it came from inside the walls. He was calling my name. Then, laughing, Marcus started banging on the front door with a chair. The wood didn't even crack. Tori's flashlight went out. When she turned it back on, the chairs at the table were all facing us. That's when I saw something move in the hallway. A tall, dark figure hunched, crawling more than walking, with its limbs bending wrong, its head turned toward us, no eyes. Just hollow black sockets. Lila fainted. Marcus dropped his light. I grabbed her and ran, dragging her into a room near the back. We hid in what looked like a child's bedroom. Toys everywhere, dusty. A doll sitting on the bed, porcelain face cracked in half, mouth open wide as if screaming. I covered Lila's mouth as she started to wake, whispering, "Don't make a sound." Then I heard it again. That voice, Jake's. Only now it was coming from the doll. I don't remember how long we stayed there. The air grew colder and colder, and at some point I realized I could see my breath. The whispering never stopped. It came from the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Sometimes it sounded like laughter, sometimes crying. When the sun finally started to rise, the house went quiet. The front door was open. I carried Lila outside. Marcus and Tori were gone. So was Jake. The police searched the place for days. They found nothing. No footprints, no blood. Just 5 plates on the table, still set. They said the Barton house has been abandoned for decades, and that no one had been inside for years. But last week, a neighbor called the sheriff after hearing noises again. He said he saw lights flickering inside around midnight. He swore he saw 5 shadows moving behind the curtains, and one of them was laughing. It's been a year since that night, a full year of silence, nightmares and voices I can't explain. Sometimes, when I'm half asleep, I still hear the floorboards creak, like someone pacing just outside my bedroom door. Other times, I wake up with the taste of dust and rust in my mouth, the same smell that filled the Barton house. The police closed the case months ago. They said there was no evidence anyone else had even been there. No fingerprints except mine. No blood. No signs of a struggle. They called it mass hysteria. Said we imagined it. But I know what I saw. Jake's screams. The hand on the plate. The doll that spoke with his voice. And the thing in the hallway. Tall, crawling, with hollow eyes that weren't eyes at all. Lila never recovered. She doesn't talk anymore. Her parents moved her out of town, to a hospital upstate. Sometimes I visit her. She just stares out the window, whispering something under her breath. When I get close enough, I can make out the words she's counting, always stopping at 5. I thought I could move on. I really did. I tried therapy, sleeping pills, church, even burned the clothes I wore that night. But nothing helps, because every time I close my eyes, I see the house again, not the way it was, but alive, breathing, waiting. 2 weeks ago, I got a letter. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid picture. It showed the Barton house, taken from the road, and in one of the upstairs windows, a face, Jake's face, smiling. I told myself it was fake. Someone playing a sick joke. But the next night, I found another envelope under my door. This time, no picture, just a small note written in a shaky hand. "You forgot something." I should have burned it. I should have ignored it. But last night, I drove back to Old Pine Road. I don't even remember deciding to. It felt like something was pulling me there. The road was darker than I remembered. The trees seemed taller, thicker, like they were trying to keep the house hidden. When I parked, the air was so cold it burned my throat. The house looked the same, maybe worse. The windows were black, empty holes. The door hung half open, like it had been waiting for me. I told myself I'd only look inside for a minute, just long enough to prove to myself that it was just a memory, that there was nothing real left of that night. I stepped inside, the same smell hit me. Dust, rot, iron, and then I saw it. The table, still there, 5 plates. Still set. Only now there were names carved into the wood in front of each plate. Jake, Marcus, Tori, Lila, and mine. The air felt thick, like the walls were pressing inward. Somewhere upstairs, I heard the sound of a door creaking. Then, a laugh, Jake's laugh. I called out his name, nothing. Just that long, endless creak of the rocking chair in the next room. I should have run, but my body wouldn't move. Every step forward felt like walking underwater. The flashlight flickered, then steadied on the wall across from me, and I froze. There were handprints, hundreds of them, all over the walls, some small, some huge, but they weren't made of dirt. They were burned into the wood, a whisper behind me. "You're late." I turned around. The doorway was empty, but the rocking chair had stopped moving, and sitting in it was the doll. The same cracked porcelain face, only now its mouth had been stitched closed with something dark. It held a folded photograph in its lap. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. It was us, all 5 of us, standing in front of the house last Halloween. Only in this picture, we weren't smiling. We were inside the window, watching. The light went out. Everything went black. Then I heard it. Footsteps on the stairs, slow and heavy, dragging something behind them. I tried to run, but the door was gone, just gone. The walls had shifted. The hallway stretched endlessly, doors where there weren't any before. The whispers grew louder, overlapping. Hundreds of voices all speaking my name at once, and then I saw them. Jake first, standing at the top of the stairs. His face pale, eyes hollow. Behind him, Marcus, Tori, and Lila, all silent, all smiling. They started walking down toward me in unison. Their footsteps perfectly in sync. "Join us," Jake said, his voice warped deep. "Wrong. The table's not full without you." I backed away. But something grabbed my ankle, cold like metal. I fell hard. When I looked down, I saw fingers, black and burned, gripping me from the cracks in the floorboards. I screamed until my throat tore. I woke up on the side of the road. The sun was rising. My truck was parked a few feet away. Door still open. I don't remember leaving the house. I don't remember running, but there was something in my hand. The Polaroid. Only now, there were 6 people in the window, and the last one was me. I used to think hauntings stayed where they began, that if you just left the place, the graveyard, the forest, the house, it couldn't touch you anymore. I don't believe that now. I think some places take something from you when you go, and when they're done taking, they follow. It's been 3 weeks since I went back to Old Pine Road. 3 weeks since I woke up on the side of the road. With that Polaroid in my hand, I haven't slept a single night through since then, because every time I close my eyes, I see them: Jake, Marcus, Tori, Lila, and that 6th figure, the one that looks like me. At first, I thought it was just trauma, the nightmares, the sounds, but it's not. Things started happening. The first was small. My phone alarm went off at exactly 3:00 a.m., even though I'd never set one. When I looked at the screen, the time froze, 3 bucks, and wouldn't change, no matter what I did. The phone stayed that way for 13 minutes before it suddenly blinked back to life. The next day, all the photos on my phone were gone, except one, the Polaroid. Only now, there was movement in it. The figures looked closer to the window than before. A few nights later, I heard footsteps in my apartment, slow, deliberate, barefoot. I grabbed a flashlight and checked every room. Nothing. But when I looked under my bed, I found mud. Wet footprints. Small ones like a child's. The next morning, I found something on my kitchen table. 5 plates empty, except for one, mine, which had a folded piece of paper on it. It said, "The table's still waiting." I burned it, or at least I tried to. The flame went out before the paper even blackened. I started noticing faces. In windows, in reflections, in dark corners. Not all the time. Just enough to make me question what's real. Once, when I looked in the bathroom mirror, I saw someone standing behind me. Tall, bent, its hands resting on my shoulders. But when I turned around, there was nothing. I stopped going to work, stopped answering calls, even stopped visiting Lila until her mother called and begged me to come. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and rain. When I walked into her room, she was sitting by the window humming. Her face looked different, calm, almost peaceful. I sat beside her and asked quietly, "Lila, do you remember me?" She turned her head slowly. Her eyes were gray, empty, like the life had drained out of them long ago. Then she smiled. But it wasn't her smile. It was his. Jake's. "They said you'd come." she whispered. Her voice was soft, but wrong, layered, like two people speaking at once. They said we were just waiting for you to finish your plate. I froze. Lila, who's they? Her smile widened. The ones who never left the house. Then she started laughing in a slow, broken laugh that echoed through the room. The lights flickered, the monitor beside her bed went flat, and when nurses rushed in, she was already gone. I didn't even remember driving home. I just remember walking into my apartment and smelling that same metallic scent from the house iron, blood, rot, and then I saw them, all 5 of them, standing in the living room, perfectly still. Jake in front, his head tilted, eyes black and dripping. Behind him, Marcus and Tori Lila standing at the back, wearing the hospital gown, her hands folded like a doll's. On the table in front of them, the same table from the Barton house. 5 plates again, a 6th one in the center. Mine. Jake spoke first. Welcome home, Evan. His voice sounded like it came from everywhere. The floor, the walls, my own head. I don't belong here, I said, but my voice didn't sound like mine either. He smiled. You already do. The walls began to breathe. The air turned heavy, pressing on my chest. The floorboards rippled like liquid wood. I tried to run, but every step took me back to the same spot, the table. Tori reached out a hand. Skin gray, nails blackened. Sit down, she said. It's rude to leave before dessert. Something in me broke. I screamed, grabbed the Polaroid from my pocket, and tore it apart. The pieces hit the floor and bled. Jake's smile disappeared. The lights went out, and for a moment, I thought it was over. Then a whisper. You can't tear yourself out, Evan, and when the light came back, the Polaroid was whole again, lying on the table. Only this time it was empty. No people, no shadows, just the house and the front door, open. That was 5 days ago. I haven't left my apartment since. I've blocked the windows, unplugged the lights, smashed every mirror, but I can still hear them. Sometimes it's laughter, sometimes knocking, sometimes a voice, right behind my ear, whispering the same words over and over. Come home. And I know what it means now. It's not a place anymore, it's me. The Barton house isn't waiting at the end of Old Pine Road. It's inside me, and every night, a little more of me disappears behind its door. The Lost Man of Black Hollow Road, based on a true disappearance, 2019. I've kept quiet about what happened for years. Maybe out of fear, maybe guilt. But after everything I've seen and after what I still hear, I can't stay silent anymore. This isn't just a missing person story. It's something else. Something that shouldn't exist. Daniel Owens was my closest friend. We were photographers who specialized in exploring abandoned places, hospitals, old factories, forgotten houses lost to time. Daniel always said he wanted to photograph the ghosts of America, but he meant it metaphorically. At least I thought he did. When he found a rumor online about an abandoned mining camp hidden deep in the woods of northern Pennsylvania, he wouldn't stop talking about it. The Post mentioned a small settlement that vanished after a mine collapse in the 1960s. No bodies recovered, no rescue, just an entire group of men swallowed by the earth. Locals had another name for it, Black Hollow. Daniel said we had to go, that it was his biggest find yet. I remember hesitating. The place wasn't even on most maps. The few references we found online said there was no cell service, no nearby houses, no marked roads, just silence and trees. But Daniel always knew how to convince me. He said, come on, it'll just be another shoot. A weekend in the woods. We drove out there in early October. The air was gray and heavy, the trees shedding color like they were dying too. By the time we reached the forest, the GPS had already lost signal. We followed an old dirt path until we found a small cabin by a creek, half rotten but still standing. Daniel was thrilled. He said it felt like something out of a horror movie. He wasn't wrong. We set up our gear, lit a fire, and Daniel recorded his usual vlog. I can still remember his exact words. Night 1, Black Hollow Road. If you find this footage, we're either famous or gone, he laughed. I didn't. I woke up sometime past midnight. The fire had burned out and the air felt different, heavier, like it was pressing down on me. That's when I heard it, a voice. Low, calm, calling from outside the cabin. It said just 2 words, down here. At first I thought it was Daniel, but his bed was empty. I stepped outside, shining my flashlight through the trees. Everything was silent except for the faint echo of that voice. The same tone, the same rhythm. Down here. It didn't sound far, but the woods made distance meaningless. I followed it. The forest eventually opened into a clearing I hadn't seen before. In the middle was a hole. A perfect circle, maybe 12 feet wide. The air pouring from it was freezing and thick, carrying the smell of wet metal and rot. And then I heard Daniel's voice. "Help me," I shouted for him. My light barely reached the bottom, but I could see something moving. A hand, pale, trembling, covered in dirt. I knelt down, reached for it, and the hand moved away. Then I heard it again. "Help me." Same voice, same tone. Only this time it wasn't Daniel's voice anymore. It was mine. I ran. When morning came, Daniel was gone. His car was still parked outside, camera bag open, coffee cup half full. But no trace of him. I went back to the clearing, but there was no hole. Just untouched ground. The police searched for days. Dogs, drones, volunteers. Nothing. The official report said, "Probable fall remains unrecovered." I tried to believe it. 3 months later, I got a small package in the mail. No name, no address. Inside was a single SD card. The footage started normally. Daniel filming trees, the cabin, a few minutes of him laughing about how creepy it was. Then, near the end, the camera tilted toward that same clearing. Daniel whispered, "Do you hear that? It's like breathing." The sound grew louder, like wind being forced through a throat. He leaned closer to the hole, whispering, "Hello?" And then another voice answered, "Come down." The camera shook violently. Daniel screamed something I couldn't understand. The final frame before it cut to black showed him turning toward the lens, eyes wide. And behind him, dozens of pale hands reaching out of the dark. That was the last frame. I tried to contact the police again, but the card disappeared before I could hand it in. I swear I left it on my desk overnight. When I woke up, it was gone. Months passed. I started trying to move on. Then last winter, another envelope arrived. No SD card this time, just a single photograph. It was the cabin, nighttime. A faint light glowing in the window. And in that window, a figure, the same build, the same jacket Daniel was wearing that night. On the back, written in faded black ink, "The hollow still breathes." I haven't gone back there since. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is silent, I hear something beneath my house. Not rats. Not pipes. Breathing, slow, steady, patient, and if I listen too long, it starts to form words. Down here. Based on a true disappearance, 2019. I've stayed silent about what happened for years. Maybe because of fear, maybe guilt. But after what I've seen, after what I still hear, I can't keep pretending it was just another disappearance because I was there the last day Daniel Owens was seen alive. Daniel was my closest friend. We were photographers who specialized in documenting forgotten places, abandoned hospitals, ghost towns, the crumbling bones of America. Daniel always said, "Decay has memory." He believed every ruined place remembered what happened there. One night, he found a post online about an abandoned mining camp deep in the woods of northern Pennsylvania. It said the mine collapsed in the 1960s, trapping dozens of workers whose bodies were never recovered. Locals had another name for the area, Black Hollow. They said sometimes if the wind was right, you could still hear the mine breathing. Daniel was obsessed. He said it was our next big project. I hesitated. The place wasn't on any map, and the few references we found said there was no cell signal, no nearby houses, no light for miles, just trees and silence. But he convinced me, like he always did. "Come on," he said, laughing. "It's just another weekend shoot. What's the worst that could happen?" We drove out in early October. The air was gray, damp, heavy. The further we drove, the quieter it got. No cars, no houses, no birds. By the time we lost GPS signal, the sky had already started to darken. We eventually found a small, rotting hunting cabin near a creek. Daniel was thrilled. "This is perfect," he said. He set up his tripod, filmed his vlog, and smiled into the lens. Night 1, Black Hollow Road. "If anyone finds this, we're either famous or gone." He laughed. I didn't. I woke up sometime after midnight. The fire had gone out and the air inside the cabin felt thick, like it was pressing on my chest. Then I heard it. A voice. Low, calm, calling from outside. Down here. I thought Daniel was playing a prank, but when I turned, his bed was empty. His camera was gone too. I stepped outside with my flashlight. The forest was silent. No wind. No animals. Just that same voice. Soft and patient. Down here. It came from deeper in the woods. I followed it. The trees opened into a clearing I swear hadn't been there before. In the center was a pit, round, maybe 12 feet across. Cold air poured from it, wet and foul, like something was rotting deep below. Then I heard him. Daniel. Help me. I shouted his name. When I shined the light down, the beam vanished into darkness, and then I saw something move in the hand. Pale, shaking, scraping against the dirt. I dropped to my knees, reached for it, and it slipped away. The voice came again, but it wasn't Daniel's voice anymore. It was mine. Help me. I ran. I don't remember how I got back to the cabin, only that when I did, I locked the door and sat awake until sunrise. Daniel never came back. In the morning, his car was still parked outside. His equipment was there. His coffee cup. Everything except him. I went back to the clearing. The pit was gone. The ground looked untouched. No hole, no footprints, nothing. The police searched for 3 days. Dogs, drones, volunteers. No trace. They said he must have fallen somewhere or gotten lost in the forest. But there was no blood, no trail, nothing. 3 months later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single SD card. The footage was from Daniel's camera. At first, it was normal, shots of trees, the cabin, his usual commentary. Then the video cut to him standing at the edge of the pit. He whispered, "Do you hear that? It's like breathing." The sound grew louder. It wasn't wind, it was something alive. A deep, rhythmic inhale and exhale coming from below. Then another voice, low and cold, whispered back, "Come down." The camera shook violently. Daniel screamed. The last frame froze on his face, eyes wide, mouth open, and behind him, dozens of pale hands reaching out from the dark. Then the footage ended. I planned to hand the SD card to the police the next morning, but when I woke up, it was gone. No sign of forced entry. Nothing else missing. Months passed, I tried to move on. Then, last winter, another envelope arrived. No SD card this time, just a single photo. It showed the same cabin, taken at night. And in the window, there was someone standing. Same height, same jacket Daniel wore that night. On the back of the photo, written in faded black ink, were 4 words. "The hollow still breathes." I don't go near the woods anymore. But sometimes late at night, when the world is quiet, I hear it, faint, beneath the floorboards, breathing, slow, heavy, and if I listen too long, it starts to speak, down here. 5 years after the Owens disappearance. 5 years. That's how long it's been since Daniel Owens vanished in the woods off Black Hollow Road. I wasn't there when it happened, but I've watched the footage 100 times. The one that leaked online, supposedly from his lost SD card. Most people think it's fake. I wish it was. I'm part of a small independent film crew that investigates unsolved disappearances. We make quiet documentaries. No ghost hunting, no screaming in the dark. Just stories. Real stories. When my producer told me we got permission to film near Black Hollow, I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Everyone who's heard about that place knows the stories. The missing hikers, the strange animal deaths, the way the ground itself seems to move when the wind picks up. But no one talks about Daniel Owens anymore. Not out loud. We were 4 people. Eli, our sound guy, always skeptical. Nora, the director, calm and fearless. Ben, our cameraman, too eager for his own good, and me, Callie, the researcher, the one who probably should have said no. We arrived in mid-October. The drive out took hours. By the time we reached the forest, the road had narrowed into a single dirt path swallowed by fog. The GPS died about 10 minutes before we got to the clearing. It felt like the world behind us had already disappeared. The air smelled metallic, like rust and rain. We found the old cabin just before sunset. It was smaller than it looked in Daniel's footage. The porch had collapsed and something had scratched deep, uneven lines across the door like claws or tools or both. Nora was thrilled. "This is perfect," she said, setting down her bag. Ben grinned and lifted his camera. Night 1 at Black Hollow. "Let's see what's left of this legend," Eli muttered. "Hopefully us." That night the forest felt wrong. No insects, no birds, no wind, just stillness, like the world was holding its breath. While we set up the generator, I noticed something in the dirt behind the cabin. Footprints, dozens of them, some bare, some booted, some small like a child's, all leading toward the trees. None coming back. I didn't tell anyone. Around midnight, Eli started hearing something through his headphones. He said it sounded like a heartbeat. Thick, wet, and slow, coming from below us. He pulled off the headset, pale and shaking. "It's under us," he whispered. We thought it was interference, until the ground beneath the cabin began to throb. A faint rise and fall, like breathing. Nora laughed nervously. Probably water pressure, but there was no plumbing, no pipes, no water. At 3:14 a.m., Ben's camera picked up something none of us saw with our eyes. A figure standing behind the cabin. Still, watching. For just one frame. We checked the footage 3 times. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was a man. Pale face, dark jacket, eyes like he hadn't slept in years. The next morning Eli was gone. His sleeping bag was torn open from the inside, the zipper ripped apart. No blood. No footprints leaving the cabin. Just a small hole in the floorboards where his bag had been. The edges of the wood were wet and dark, as if something had breathed through it. We tried to leave. The truck wouldn't start. Every time Ben turned the key, the radio hissed and whispered the same phrase through static. "Down here." Nora smashed the radio with her flashlight. It didn't stop whispering. That night I found Eli's recorder under the bed. When I played it back, I expected wind or silence. Instead, I heard voices. Not one. Hundreds, all whispering at once like a crowd buried underground. And among them, clear as glass, Daniel Owens said my name. By the 3rd day, Nora wanted to burn the cabin down. She said the ground was breathing louder, faster, like it was getting hungry. Ben wouldn't stop filming. He kept saying he saw Daniel outside, standing at the tree line, watching. When I finally looked, there was something there, but it wasn't human anymore. It moved too slowly. Its head twitched side to side like it was listening to something deep below. Then the forest began to pulse. Not the trees, not the air, the ground itself. The dirt cracked open just an inch. A smell poured out, cold and foul like rust and rot and breath. Ben dropped his camera. He whispered, "It's alive." Nora screamed. The earth opened wider. Hands reached up, gray, slick, silent, and pulled Ben down. No sound, no struggle. He was just gone. The ground closed like nothing happened. I ran. I don't remember how I escaped. When I woke, it was daylight, and I was on the road. The forest was quiet again. The police searched for weeks. No trace of the others. Just a camera found half buried near the cabin. The footage showed me standing in the doorway whispering something over and over. They said it sounded like, "It's still breathing." It's been 6 months. Sometimes I still wake up to that sound. The slow, heavy inhale from beneath the floor. Sometimes if I'm quiet enough, I hear their voices in it. Nora, Eli, Ben, Daniel, all whispering the same thing, like they're right below me, just under the earth, down here. A true account from October 2021. I don't really know how to start this. But I guess it began the night before Halloween, October 30th, 2021. My town is small. Surrounded by miles of pine forest, we don't get trick-or-treaters out here. Just fog, silence, and sometimes the distant hoot of an owl that sounds a little too close. I'd just moved back home after college. My parents' house sat right on the edge of the forest. At night, you could hear the trees creak like old bones. I was alone that weekend. Mom was visiting family, and Dad was working out of state. That night, I went outside to bring in the trash can. That's when I noticed it. Across the field, maybe 50 yards away, something was standing between the trees. At first, I thought it was a person, tall, thin, perfectly still, but when I blinked, it looked wrong. Its arms hung too long, its shoulders too narrow. Its head tilted like it didn't understand how humans worked. I thought maybe it was a tree trunk catching the moonlight. But when I looked again, it had moved just a little closer. I went inside fast, locked the door, told myself I was being paranoid. But even after I shut the curtains, I couldn't shake the feeling that something outside was watching. That night I dreamed I was walking through the forest. Everything was gray and dead. No sound except the crunch of leaves under my feet. Then I saw him, tall, faceless, arms, like branches reaching for me. He didn't move, but somehow he was closer every time I blinked. When I woke up, my phone said 3:33 a.m., and my window was open. The next morning, Halloween, I found something strange near the back fence, a pile of small sticks arranged in a perfect circle. In the center, my house key, the one I'd lost weeks ago. I should have left right then. Instead, I laughed it off, told myself it was just some kid's prank. But later, I started hearing tapping, soft, deliberate, from the window behind me. 3 slow knocks, pause, then 3 more. I froze. The curtains were drawn, but I could see the faint shadow of a hand. Long fingers. Too long. I called the police. They came, looked around, found nothing, no footprints, no sign of anyone. They told me to lock up and relax, so I did. Every door, every window. Still that night, I heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. This time, it came from inside the house. I tried to run, but the lights went out all at once. The air turned heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. And from the hallway, I heard a whisper, a dry rustling sound, like paper tearing slowly. I turned my phone flashlight on and pointed it down the hall. He was there, tall enough that his head brushed the ceiling, arms stretching, fingers gliding along the walls like they were tasting the air. His suit was perfectly black, blending into the dark except for his pale, featureless face. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. It felt like my voice had been taken from me. He leaned closer, his faceless head tilted sideways, as if studying me. Then, just as my vision started to blur, he disappeared. Gone. The house was silent again. When I came to, it was morning. The lights were on, everything looked normal. But outside my window, carved into the wood with something sharp, were 4 words. You look too long. I packed up that day and left. I live in the city now, surrounded by people, noise, lights. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind passes between tall buildings, it sounds just like the forest, and I swear I see him reflected in the glass. Watching. Waiting. It's been 8 months since that night. 8 months since I left the house by the woods. Since I swore I'd never look back. I live in a city now, a place full of noise, people, light. You'd think that would be enough to drown out the silence. But silence finds you. At first, everything felt fine. I rented a small apartment on the 7th floor of an old brick building downtown. No trees, no fields, no forest. Just concrete and sirens. I told myself he can't follow me here. But the dreams came back. Always the same. I'm standing in an endless hallway, white walls stretching forever. Every time I turn around, he's there, tall, still, and every time, he's closer. I wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, and for a few seconds, I can still hear it, the faint sound of tapping. 3 knocks, pause, then 3 more. It started happening outside the dreams, too. One morning, I woke to find my front door slightly open. I live alone, and I always lock it. The security chain was still latched, bent, but latched, like something thin had slipped through anyway. I checked the hallway camera feed from the building's security system. At 3:33 a.m., the motion sensor picked up movement outside my door. A tall, thin shadow. For a moment, it just stood there. Then it leaned forward until its head almost touched the lens, and the feed went black. I told myself it was a glitch. Cities are full of weirdos, right? But then my phone started acting up. Whenever I tried to take a picture in my apartment, there'd be static lines across the screen, and behind me in the static blur, something long and black would stretch out of the frame. I deleted every photo. But the next morning, they were back, resaved to my gallery, time-stamped 3:33 a.m. One night, I came home late from work. It was raining hard. The elevator was broken, so I had to take the stairs. Around the 5th floor, the lights flickered. For a split second, I saw him at the bottom of the stairwell, tall enough that his head nearly brushed the ceiling, his arms hanging almost to his knees. He didn't move. Didn't need to. By the time I reached the 7th floor, I could feel him behind me, that heavy electric pressure in the air, like before a thunderstorm. I ran into my apartment, slammed the door, locked it, pushed furniture against it. Silence. Then, tap, tap, tap from the window this time. Live on the 7th floor. There's no balcony. I froze. The tapping got louder, slow, rhythmic, like fingernails on glass. I didn't want to look, but I did. He was there, outside my window, pressed against the glass, like a shadow stretched too thin, no face. Just the faint outline of where a face should be. The lights flickered again. And for a heartbeat, he was inside, behind me. Turned to nothing, but when I looked back at the window, my reflection was gone. I called a friend that night, Mark, who's into paranormal stuff. Told me to set up cameras, said maybe I'd catch proof, so I did. I set one in the hallway, one in the bedroom, and one facing the window. Then I left them running all night. The next morning, the hallway and window cameras were fine, but the bedroom one, at 3:33 a.m., the image glitched. The static cleared just long enough to show a figure standing over me as I slept. It leaned close to the camera, and I swear I could see fingers brushing my hair. Then, nothing but black. When I checked the time code, it stopped exactly when my clock read 3:33. I moved out the next week, didn't even take my furniture. I just left. But 2 nights ago, I woke up in my new apartment, different city, different state, to the sound of tapping again. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more. And when I looked at the window, there, faint and pale in the reflection, was me, standing. Outside, smiling. He doesn't live in the forest anymore. He lives in mirrors, in cameras, in reflections, and once you've seen him, he never stops looking back. It's been 2 weeks since I moved again. I thought running would help, but it's like trying to run from your own shadow. You can change cities, names, faces, but he still finds you, or maybe he never left. I started hearing things before I saw them, the hum of static behind every sound, the TV flickering on its own, my phone camera turning on when I wasn't touching. Then the reflection problems got worse. It started small. When I'd walk past a mirror, my reflection would lag by half a second. Then one night, it didn't move at all. It just stood there, watching me. I covered every mirror in my apartment, but that didn't stop it. I'd catch glimpses of him in black screens, in windows, in puddles on the street, the tall one, always behind me. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear whispers, not words, just the sound of breathing, slow and close, and always that faint static hum. One night, I found something new on my laptop, a video folder I didn't create. It was labeled 3:33. There were dozens of clips. Every night since I moved in, the webcam had recorded on its own. At first, it was just me sleeping. Then the static started creeping in, and then he appeared at the edge of the frame. closer each night until, in the last clip, he wasn't behind me, he was me. The camera showed me standing over my own sleeping body, head tilted, face blank, and when the sleeping version of me woke up, both of us turned to look at the camera at the same time. The video ended there. I called Mark again. He didn't answer. I went to his apartment. The door was unlocked. The lights were on. Inside, everything was wrong. The furniture was pushed to the walls, symbols drawn on the floor with something dark, and in the middle, his phone recording. I picked it up. The video was playing in reverse. Mark was talking to the camera, crying, saying he couldn't stop seeing him, that the tall man wanted him to spread it. Then he looked off screen and whispered, "Once you see him, you belong to him." Behind him, a shadow stretched across the wall, longer, thinner until it covered everything. The screen went black. I left. Don't remember locking the door. Don't remember getting home. But when I looked at the footage from my own hallway camera that night, I saw myself come in, except it wasn't quite me. Too tall, too still. And when it turned to face the camera, the video glitched, but for one frame I could see its face. It didn't have one. The last few days are a blur. I barely eat. I don't go outside. Every clock in the apartment freezes at 3:33, even the ones with dead batteries. Last night, I tried something desperate. I uncovered all the mirrors. I wanted to face it, to prove it wasn't real. At first, all I saw was my reflection. But then behind me, the static started to crawl up the walls like frost. The lights dimmed, and in the mirror, I watched my reflection start to move on its own. It raised its hand slowly and pressed it against the glass. I don't know why I did it. Maybe curiosity, maybe surrender, but I pressed mine against it too. The glass was ice cold. Then it wasn't glass anymore. It felt like skin. My reflection smiled, and then I wasn't looking into a array. I was inside it. Now I see my old apartment. From the other side, I see the world through a surface that ripples like water. People pass by, and sometimes they look right into me, but they don't see. They never see until Halloween night. That's when the veil is thin. That's when he moves. That's when I move. If you see a reflection tonight that doesn't quite follow your movement, don't stare, don't check twice, because once you see me, you'll never stop. I'm watching you right now, and the moment you blink, I'll be closer.